You're tuned in to the TEMSEA Leadership Coaching Calls, a place where EMS professionals connect, learn, and grow. Hosted by Phil Sanderson, tenured paramedic, senior healthcare leader, and certified leadership coach, these interactive sessions bring expert mentors straight to you. Got a question? Ask it live. Looking for a solution? We've got them. Subscribe now and never miss an opportunity to grow as a leader.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. It is September the 5th, our first Friday episode. This one's going to be great. We've got 4 great ladies here this morning, awesome EMS leaders that we're going to introduce here just in one moment here. Again, thank you for attending. As always, we do this call because the most important person you'll ever lead is yourself. I want to just give out a quick little shout out this morning. This episode was heavily inspired by one of our mentors, our Tennessee EMS legends and of EMS, Tom Coley. I want to give him a shout out and thank him for his inspiration for this. He also shared a story with me. He said, there was a time when he was a young medic where there was a 4'8", 85-pound redheaded female that saved me from a serious butt whooping. I guess in the back of the ambulance. From a crazy lady. That patient, he said that patient had fingernails like Dolly Parton, and she would have just cut him up. So, anyways, I thought I would share that to kind of get us started off this morning. So I don't want to hold up any more time because we're going to make this an hour episode, and we've got 4 ladies that have a lot to share. I'm going to just quickly do around the room and let them introduce themselves. We have this morning Joyce Noles. We have Willow Chavez, we have April Miller, and Shannon Morphis. Joyce, you want to just give us an introduction? I know you, so don't hold back. Tell us who you are and all your great accolades.
Joyce Noles. I'm the executive director for West Tennessee Healthcare EMS over in West Tennessee. My office is out of Jackson, but we got 4 counties and anyway, just spread out a little bit there in West Tennessee. And anyway, glad to be here. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had Joyce on here before. Willow.
Hey, my name's Willow. I'm the EMS chief in Giles County, so southern middle Tennessee. Been in that position for about 2.5 years now. We have 4 ambulances that cover a very rural county, so it's fun times.
Yeah, Giles County. If anybody's ever looking for a place to go somewhere rural, it is Giles County for sure. A lot of beautiful area. April.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. My name's April Miller. I am from East Tennessee, also the director of a small rural service in Roane County. I'm glad to be here, bringing 24 years in EMS, so hopefully we can have a good conversation today.
I have no doubts that we do, and I'm looking forward to hearing some good things from you guys. And April, like she says, from Roane County, another rural county, but close to Knoxville. So Tennessee folks, we're glad with that. All right, Shannon.
Good morning. My name's Shannon Morphis, and I'm the director of EMS and ED outreach for Ascension St. Thomas. Been in EMS several decades, and I'm very honored to be here this morning with these ladies.
Nice. And as you can see, we've got a variety, a range of experience here, and Shannon's our current president of TEMSEA, so we're glad to have her back on the call as well. So let's kick this off. This is going to be an awesome conversation. Joyce, we'll kick it off with you, and the other 3 here just chime in here if you'd like. What inspired you to pursue a leadership in EMS, and how did your career path unfold?
Oh, wow. So really, I didn't ever, leadership wasn't my plan when I started. My plan was just to take care of people but I'm one of these people who have to grow. So, you get your basic, then you got to go to your advanced, then you got to go to your paramedic. And, I had some very awesome directors that I've worked for, and they always encouraged me. And Med Center had this leadership training program, and it wasn't even in my plan to do it. And a friend of mine said, "I don't want to do it alone. Do it with me." And so I was like, "Okay." So anyway, I agreed to do it, and then you know, 28, 29 years later, here I am. So, like I said, it wasn't my plan. It just kind of unfolded, and the right people in my path, and great mentors along the way. And um, you know, um, it's it's just interesting how the EMS field has grown, over a span of like 30 years. So um, again, it's wasn't the plan, but here I am.
Yeah. So, Willow, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I didn't never set out to be in leadership positions, maybe with the exception of the military. That was kind of the trajectory there was, to eventually end up in like, a non-commissioned officer role or whatever. And I was really excited to do that, during my time in the military because I did want to take care of people. And I didn't have a lot of strong leadership experiences. So I kind of wanted to provide what I didn't have for other folks coming up. But once I once I got out into the civilian world, I really had no desire to do that anymore. But I just kept finding myself in these positions. And being the kind of person that I am to not turn down opportunity, I think it's just kind of been a natural progression. The position here at Giles County, when Roy Griggs retired, I had people call and reach out through social media and stuff and say, "Hey, please consider applying for this job." Um, and it was an opportunity. It was an open door. So I said, I'll apply for it. I probably won't get it. We'll see what happens. And here we are. So
Yeah, be careful what you ask for, right? Well, you've done a fantastic job down there. April, Shannon, when you ladies want to,
Well, I'll jump in real quick. It's funny to hear everyone else say the exact same thing. You probably saw me smiling and nodding when Joyce started because I just wanted to be on the ambulance. I just wanted to take care of people. I had no delusions of grandeur. I didn't think I would ever. I wasn't looking at leadership. It wasn't a thing on my horizon. And like Willow said, it just things presented themselves, and I have an issue with saying no. So it just was a natural progression to say, yeah, I'll try that. I may fall on my face, but I'll try that. And um, like somebody said, 24 years later, here I am, and I'm on this call with these great leaders. So I guess it worked out pretty well. April?
Same. Like I think as we look back 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of examples of women in these head roles. So I think when we come into this profession, it's kind of not in our mindset to get there because of the lack of visibility that we had at that time. And I think we all just kind of ended up here, and here we are.
yeah. So a common theme here I've heard from the four of you, and I think this is across the board with probably everybody that's in leadership is two things. You had great mentors, and then there was a calling. I mean, you didn't have any desire really. You didn't come into this thing to become a leader, but there was some sort of calling that you answered, and you had some great mentors to lead you along the way. So thank y'all for that little quick introduction there and kind of getting us kicked off here. So let's dive into this thing a little bit deeper here. What are some unique challenges that each of you have faced as a woman in EMS leadership, and how did you overcome them? Who wants to start off?
Well, Phil, I'm going to jump in because you asked for some of our thoughts before this call, and what has always hit me was I was always one of the guys until I wasn't. I grew up a tomboy. I grew up just one of the team, one of the guys, when I was on the unit, it was the same way. We were all just kind of across the board the same. And then once you get into leadership, occasionally it would be pointed out that I wasn't one of the guys, um, by not being included in the men's meeting in the morning and things like that. And hopefully that is changing. I'm seeing that changing, but I think probably everybody on this call can relate to a time when they were either a new leader or just in their leadership role. And if they were the only female there, they may have been excluded. I know I was. I know there were meetings down the hall, the leadership hall, that I wasn't invited to because, oh, you don't need to be in that, or you wouldn't get it, or whatever the excuse was at the time.
Yeah, that's definitely a real problem that I think hopefully we're overcoming. And you know, Joyce and I, when we were talking about some of her thoughts, we were thinking, when we first got into this, how many women were directors? And I could only think of one. And she and I had worked for that service, part time, for this lady. And still thinking through it, I haven't actually thought of any more since then. That was during that time. And so Joyce, tell us about your community. I won't spoil that little thought that you're going to probably share with us there, kind of playing off of what Shannon said. She was a tomboy, one of the guys, until she wasn't one of the guys.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way it was. I'm sure there was times when I was excluded, but I didn't really notice it, I guess. I grew up in a small community, and I was sharing with Phil that um, I never really noticed that there was a gender difference because, uh, you know, um, we had we didn't have a softball team, we had a baseball team, and so if you wanted to play, you played baseball. So when I got to the age of going out of Little League, um, the next step was Babe Ruth, and there just wasn't any girls in Babe Ruth around where I lived, and so I wasn't going to play. And the coach is like, "You're not going to play? What? What are you talking about?" He said, "We want you to play," and said, "Okay, but my normal spot was hind catcher, so I was going to play first base. I didn't want to play hind catcher. It's a guy. All these Babe Ruth guys, but." Our catcher was really bad, I'll just tell you. So anyway, so I played catcher for a little bit, and it was funny that our team got made fun of because we had a girl on the team and things like that. But once the game got started, it wasn't about being a girl on the team. It was about playing the game, and that's the way I've approached EMS too. It's about playing the game. We have a task to do. Being female in leadership, I was blessed, I think, to have some really great mentors above me that made sure to include me. Now, sometimes that was a little bit the chivalry there, where they wanted to like open the doors and all that stuff. That was there, but they always included me and stuff. So I really didn't have the exclusion that um, and if I did, they hit it very well. I'll just say that. But it was really great. Um, and just to approach the thing, not that I'm a female in EMS, but that we have a job to do and let's get the job done. I told Phil, sometimes being a female brings a different aspect to the leadership position. You're used to the guy thing, and I told him when I first got into it, there were very few females in EMS altogether, but very few in leadership roles. And um, you know, I was blessed when I came to work for West Tennessee Healthcare that I had Carla Kelly, and some of y'all know Carla. Um, and but she didn't let you use a female being as a crutch. She made you use it as a strength, and so that in itself was just a blessing. So
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, for those who knew Carla, man, she was tough. She definitely, I could see that for sure. Absolutely. So Willow, kind of playing on this question here, what about facing political tension as a female, especially as a young, because you've been in your role for 2 years,
Yeah.
and coming into this brand new. What about facing political tension, and especially in a rural area, very rural area? How has that been challenging for you as a female?
It's been it's been incredibly challenging, and I'm sure that I'm sure the gender plays a part in that. I think listening to y'all talk about that, I don't feel that as much from internally from, the people within the agency, but I do feel it externally with some of the politics and some of the community members and just people that they have an idea in their mind of what a leader should look like. And I don't fit that mold. So I think there's had to really kind of earn that trust, which is fine. I don't mind having to do that. But the thing that I didn't anticipate I was just the politics. And there's been a huge learning curve for me in trying to navigate those things appropriately because I'm very like I don't that's not something that I think I'm well, suited for is playing politics, and I just want to come to work and do the job, and I want to take care of folks. And when you add politics into it, all of a sudden things it just muddies the waters. So it makes things much more complicated than they need to be. So I've tried really hard to just focus on what is the task at hand, what are we trying to accomplish, and then educating the public on that. Being present on social media, trying to educate our community as far as what we do, what we're about, what's important to us, so that they know. The big thing right now is taxes and where their tax dollars are going. So I want them to know where their tax dollars are going, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, transparency is key. And in a rural area, and actually in any of your areas, you all have commissioners and mayors and political figures that you're answering to at some level, not to mention the taxpayers as well. So being transparent, because sometimes people don't really know. I mean, they just don't know what they don't know. Perception becomes their reality when it's really not anywhere close to it. So being transparent and standing firm is a really, really good approach there. April, what about communication at a high level? Sometimes, you're in your system, you're a busy system, and you don't necessarily always have time to tell all the details, or maybe vice versa. Your political folks don't want to hear all the details. How is that challenging as an EMS leader to communicate at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we come in as new leaders or even as females, I've definitely found myself in positions throughout the years where I was the only female paramedic on staff or I was the only female supervisor, and coming in as a female director, and you come in when we change, we're ignorant to things that are not in our own world, and we move from a world where our lives are centered around patient care to a position where we're no longer a doer. We're trying to create an environment. I think effective communication changes and having to be able to communicate up the ladder, down the ladder, across the ladder. I struggle with that as a detail-oriented person communicating at a high level. Definitely been in those situations where I've spent hours and days doing research and gathering data and putting in presentations, to hand somebody something, and they're like, "Yeah, I ain't got time for this. I need you to summarize it up for me." So that's been challenging for me, and living in a world where we come in as new leaders and as female leaders and challenge the status quo and deal with the human tendency to just look for the things that we expect to see, and that confirmation bias where it just solidifies those ideals. I think it's challenging, and learning to influence is driven by your ability to communicate. So I think, communication is key, and learning how to do that effectively at all levels has somewhat been challenging.
Yeah, and communication is a big word. The 4 or 5 of us, on this call here and in the audience included, we can all sit here and give our opinion on what we feel like effective communication is, because we all do it differently, and that's challenging, especially like you were just saying. You're asked to do a task. You spend hours, days, and weeks putting together something that you feel like is of high level or detail, but yet it's too much. They don't have time for that, and that's frustrating because we don't have none of us on this call have the time to waste. Time is money. Time is everything. And so, we're talking about high level. I get frustrated whenever you might ask somebody a question in an email and they send you back one word and you're like, okay, what? Like, what does that mean? That's your high level answer? Like, you're just creating more opportunity for me to send you another email. So it's definitely challenging in these things that we do. Let's talk about the emotional aspects. You know, as a male leader, and I can only speak for my own life. Um, you know, as my children were growing up, and I'm working, my wife's working. When one of them got sick, typically the mom is the one that ends up, taking care of 'em, taking off from work, going to the doctor. And, I think that's probably relevant in most people's lives if it's, a male goes to work, in their role, and then the lady they stay at home and take care of the kid or may take them to the doctor. So they sacrifice, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm no means saying that's the correct way of doing it, but that's sometimes the way it falls. So as a lady in leadership, that puts another burden on you because not only do you have responsibilities that again you've put together a presentation, you got to go to the mayor's office today. Oh, now my child's sick. I can't. I've got strep. Or something. How has that been challenging in some of your lives throughout your career? And what advice do you have maybe that you've given, or what stance or perspective can you share?
I think we go back to that challenging the status quo on both sides of those equations. That motherhood, nature, home, and then that female in leadership. It's quite challenging. I don't know that I have any great advice on how to navigate that, but that is definitely a part of the complex situation that we find ourselves in.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Joyce or Willow or Shannon?
Yeah, it's tough. I just had to leave work the other day to get a kid from school because he was sick, and had another one with me because he was sick, and now we're all sick, and it's this whole thing. Um, and they do that. It's I will say I'm very blessed and very lucky to have a spouse that picks up the slack, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do it. You just can't do all the things. Um, that being said, there is, I feel it's a little bit different for women in terms of that. I think there's still that cultural expectation that um you're going to do all of these things plus, go to work and have a job and be a leader or whatever it is that you've chosen for yourself. And I watched my mom when I was growing up. She was the same way. She was a caregiver. She did, you know, most things around the house. My dad did a lot too, but he also worked a lot. Um, but they both worked and they both had kids to take care of, and they had to figure out how to juggle all of that. So I think it's the same thing today for us and trying to find that balance. I think for me, I've had to really understand that it's okay to take a step back every once in a while. It's okay to prioritize yourself. It's okay to prioritize your family, because at the end of the day, you know, there'll be a day when I'm not in this job anymore, when I'm not in this position. And my family, those people, that core group of folks that I'm responsible for in my personal life, those are really the people that matter. So those are the ones that I need to focus on.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think a good thing there too, yo, is um as the leadership, um we have to deal with mothers trying to struggle. I have several that are single mothers in my group, and so we have to try to deal with that, but we still have to be fair with the rules and all that. So it's really it's kind of a barrier. And then on the personal side, I think my kids are tough because if there ain't a bone sticking out, they don't get no doctor. Just because you have to try to weigh in, pick your battles and which ones that you're going to have to deal with. And um so it's the emotional side of that, trying to not feel guilty because you're, like Willow said, you're prioritizing your family a little bit. um you just have to be able to each person has to figure that out within themselves and what that looks like. So, yeah, it is challenging.
And it's hard, sometimes there's been plenty of times where I've dropped what I was doing at home and I've gone to work because there's some kind of something was on fire, right? And vice versa. So I think it's just,
Yeah.
being able to kind of make those determinations in the moment of who needs you more, maybe, and make the decision that way. So
Yeah, and there's got to be a balance in there. I like what you ladies have said about that. And Shannon, you have a little different, unique story in that you have children, you started a brand new job, and then all of a sudden you found out you were diagnosed with cancer. So how did that bring about a whole new mindset as a new leader in a brand new organization with with now facing a disease that you don't know, and now you also have your family. So share with us some of those challenges.
It was it completely took what I thought I knew and threw it out the window. It was like driving down the road at 80 miles an hour and just, throwing a piece of paper out the window. Everything I thought I knew and thought I had a handle on, my playbook was gone. But I like what everybody said about prioritizing ourselves, because I did not do that well before my diagnosis. I hate to say that, but I think being a mother, being a patient, as well as being a professional, I think all those things, I think my personal life directly impacted what type of employee, what type of leader I was, for the better. I think it humanized me, and I always thought I was pretty empathetic towards my patients and my coworkers and the group that I was surrounded with. But I have a whole new appreciation for everybody is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. Because Phil, as you and I have talked about, nobody knew I had cancer for probably the first 4 months until I started losing my hair. So it was, and I wanted it that way. I wanted to continue to be the person that I was supposed to be professionally. So it changed everything, but it changed everything for the better. I feel like I became a better, because I went back on the truck after that, and I felt like part-time. I felt like I became a better leader. I felt like I became a better provider, because I finally figured out there is a balance, and there are things that are more important than our professional title. As Willow mentioned, this job will not go with me the rest of my life, I'm sure, as no job does, but hopefully my family will. And so that's it. I think it made me better. Now, those folks around me may go, not so much, but I feel like it did.
Well, it definitely puts things in perspective.
That absolutely. My perspective, I feel like, is much better than it was 4 years ago.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And definitely we're glad that things have turned out good, right?
Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely.
Serve Strong, Corbin Scott Good Memorial Foundation is proud to announce Corbin's Hometown Heroes 2025 Bash on October 4th, 2025 from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Fairfield Glade Community Center in Fairfield Glade, Crossville, Tennessee. You've never seen an event like this before. Tickets are limited and already being reserved because the demand is that high. 100% of the Hometown Heroes Bash will go directly to help first responders and their families. This incredible event will have an amazing buffet featuring barbecue chicken quarters, smoked sausage, pulled pork, soft drinks, beer, and wine for the first 2 hours, as well as a cash bar. And if that's not enough, there will also be an exciting live auction and a huge silent auction featuring worldwide vacations and once-in-a-lifetime experiences, autographed celebrity and sports memorabilia, designer jewelry, and handbags, as well as raffles giving away a wide variety of prizes. Do not miss your chance. Call your friends and secure your table of 8 now. Call Shannon McGee today for tickets and details at 931-260-1981. That's 931-260-1981, or visit servestrong.us. That's servestrong.us and click BASH. Serve Strong believes first responders are hometown heroes wherever they live. Come on out to Corbin's Hometown Heroes Bash event in Fairfield Glade, Crossville, Tennessee. Call 931-260-1981 or visit servestrong.us and click BASH.
April, you had mentioned that, because Shannon kind of led into this, but you had mentioned that titles or credentials, leadership is not about that. It's about credibility and character.
Yeah, leadership. I'm a firm believer. Leadership is not a position; it's a behavior. I could get on that soapbox of building your foundation, and we could be here for 3 days. But that character and that credibility and that consistency is built in those small, mundane tasks of the everyday world, and it's your reputation and the perception that your coworkers and others have about you will open way more doors than your resume ever will. I could go on this for all day. Like, it's not about titles. And I know and I can remember when I didn't have the title thinking, well, that's easy for somebody with a title to say. But that is 100% the truth. Leadership is behavior and how you take care of those around you.
100%. And definitely whenever you have challenges, as the four of you talked about, with children, cancer, employees that also have children or single moms that are dealing with things, you really, that title becomes unimportant, because in your leadership, that character starts to shine. Because as we've talked about on this call many times, and for those who've been in our leadership classes, it's all about others. It's all about caring for others. And if you don't understand about caring for others, or that what we do this is for others, then you're not going to be a great leader. You're going to be a very bad leader. What about some times that you may have felt underestimated or overlooked? That hopefully that's not as it used to be. I think that there was a time in our world where women were very much underestimated and overlooked, and certainly they were not given an opportunity to be leaders. They would really have to fight themselves to become leaders. But have you guys ever felt overlooked or underestimated in your roles, and how did you navigate those moments?
Okay, I have a quick story, very quick, that
Now we got
that
time.
that talks about this. So I had it was right after I came into a leadership role at my service. My direct supervisor came into my office one day, looked me in the eye, and he said, "I don't know what you do, but I know I don't like it." Which now I look back and it's hilarious. I love that. But at the time, it crushed me because this was one of my favorite supervisors of all time. But I built on that. I was like, okay, you don't know what I do. Maybe because you don't want to know what I do, but I need to build on that and make sure that I'm doing it to the best of my ability. So next time we have this conversation, you will know. So, sometimes being underestimated drives us. Sometimes it just crushes us in the moment. But I felt driven by that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love being underestimated personally. And it happens a lot. It happened a lot on the truck, especially if your partner also is a female and you get on scene and they're like, "Oh my God, what are you gonna do?" And I'm like, I don't know, let's see what happens. Um, but, also in a leadership position, we were talking about the politics and small town stuff here. Um, it's been brought up to me several times that a lot of people didn't know who I was. Um, and when somebody would mention that I was the EMS chief, they'd be like, "Oh my God, that little girl." Um, and I think it's great though. I'm like, that's fine. I'll show you what this little girl can do. So I don't take offense to it. I think that's it's an ignorant as it is, it's a normal, kind of a normal response. I've come to expect that. So I think really you can allow it to be damaging to your self-confidence and damaging to your self-image, or you can just roll with it and understand the ignorance for what it is.
Hey, I agree totally. I think being underestimated is a driving factor. I think challenges me to be better than what I am, and like you said, if when you're on the truck, we got sent one time to pick up this guy on the floor, and we walk in. He said they sent 2 females. I told him I was a big guy, so let's figure this out. So
Yeah.
um, and part of the other thing too, Phil, is in a hospital-based system like I am, um, overlooked. EMS is overlooked a lot of times until the disasters hit, and then then they're like, "Where's EMS?" So I think it's the same way for leadership, for EMS leaders in the hospital system. Is they're like, "Oh, that's EMS." They don't pay a whole lot of attention to us, but yeah, being underestimated is definitely a driving factor.
Yes, Shannon, April, you ever feel underestimated? I know, Shannon, you gave us a story a while ago, but I don't know that that always happens just in hospital systems, Joyce. I bet I bet April and can probably relate to that as well. April, you want to share?
I think our biggest challenge, and it's not necessarily for females, but just leaders in general. Just had this conversation with one of my supervisors yesterday. The fire world has done really well at developing pathways to wherever the firefighters want to go, and we don't have that necessarily in EMS. And I think a lot of that is because of lack of opportunity. And Willow had made a comment a while ago about the emotional, the motherhood side of, and then the leadership side is just an added responsibility. And I think that's the way we are in EMS. It's not, you follow this pathway and then you end up in that career or that job position. It's usually an added responsibility to what you're also doing. And I think that's probably why we struggle in defining those pathways and how to get there. So I think that's just a challenge that we all face, men and women in EMS all around.
Definitely, definitely. So we're getting close to the time where we could put some questions here, but we still have a little more to talk about here. What about what about the legacy? Being a leader is about also leaving a legacy. And I know that the four of you definitely are working hard. I know that the four of you are making major differences in your current organizations, and the community sees that. I mean, the community of EMS across the board recognizes you for that. What about some of your legacies that you hope to leave for the next generation of women that are entering EMS?
I want to brag on Willow for a minute, because I get to see Willow quite a bit because she's closer to me. She's a county over, so I see her in different things. And I worked with her service before she was director, and now that she's a director, and I have seen the providers that work for her service, male and female, but so many of them are much more active in their community, in their presence, in just putting their best foot forward for EMS. And so I think that's a direct result of her leadership in that area. And I think whether she considers that a legacy or not, I think that's a big legacy in Southern Middle Tennessee that she's making an impact that from the outside looking in, there's a huge impact that she's making in an area that, as she mentioned, it can be a little more, she's not the typical EMS director in our area, and that's a good thing. So I think I don't want to steal her thunder, but I think that's part of her legacy. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Willow, anything you want to add to that?
I know we talk about legacy and it's come up, a lot in different conferences and things that we've done. And it's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I don't have a desire to be remembered. That probably sounds terrible, but, and sometimes it strikes me as almost like a status thing. Like if you have this legacy, it's like there's your pictures on the wall somewhere, there's a statue of you somewhere, like something like that. And that's really not, for me, that's not the priority. The legacy, I think, is what the people do after I'm gone, and how I've been able to influence that trajectory of the agency, whatever that looks like. And hopefully, my goal for as long as I'm in this position is to do some things and to build some things and put things in place that are going to be hard to undo, um, after I'm gone. So that hopefully whoever comes behind me, picks up the torch and keeps on with it. But, knowing how the world is and knowing how people are, my goal is to make it difficult to undo some of the positive things. And that's what I think about when I think about legacy, not necessarily being remembered or getting the credit for it, just knowing that, hopefully I left it better than I found it.
Yeah, I love that phrase. I say that a lot. April, you've really done a lot of new great things at your service to leave a legacy. You want to share any of those with us?
Yeah, I think just what what Willow said, leave it better than we found it. I hope that I'm building a solid foundation, and I guess my biggest goal is to teach that leadership doesn't have to be lonely at the top. Like, bring them up with you. That's the culture that I'm trying to create. Provider centric, where it's not about me, but it's elevating the people around me, and that would be the legacy, if I had to choose, that I would want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, elevating the folks around you. And you've done that. I mean, just like we've watched Willow, we watched you do the same thing in your roles. And Joyce, you're like me. We're getting toward hopefully the end of our careers. We got some more time. We're not done yet, right? But what legacy have you built, which is a lot, and what do you hope to leave?
Oh, wow. So, I stepped in, I had big shoes to fill. I followed Brent Lemons and Jeff Davis, and those were large shoes to fill. And um so my goal was just to survive when I stepped into this role, because like I said, they were legends. And so I think, as I come to the end of my career, I think a little bit more about kind of what Willow and April said about leaving it better than I found it. And I think if I had to say one phrase that I wished, is that people know that I care. And I think that my employees know that, my upper management knows that, and obviously my family knows that. So I think that if I could just say that people know I care about them, when you come to me and say, I got this major problem, I'm going to have to go home, and I'm telling them it's okay, we'll figure it out. And I just think that they know that I care. So um, EMS has, just to watch it to grow and progress as a profession, has been just an honor to be a part of it. So just knowing that I care, I think, is the big thing.
Yeah, well, that caring goes a long ways. April, you
Phil,
want to add
I'd
something?
like to
Mhm.
chime in there and say that, it's an honor to be here, and that, like Joa said, her and Shannon are leaving big shoes for me and Willow to fill. And for those that that are other ones, these legendary women in EMS. So I just wanted to add that in there for us too.
You're the ones paving the way for the rest of us. So it's awesome to see, and it's awesome to be able to come behind, amazing people like that. If I can just add real quick about Shannon, I probably met you in some classes before, but what I really remember is going to the community paramedicine course um, that she put on, and immediately just the way that she carried herself, the kindness and the compassion, um, but also like very apparent that she means business. I was like, wow, this lady's amazing. Like that's who I want to be when I grow up. So really cool to be a part of this now. Seeing where I first remember meeting you and encountering you. So
You're too kind. Thank you. You are way too kind. And we will get you. We'll get you someone else to emulate, because I don't think I'm it. But I think it's been great for me to get to know everyone on this call, and there are others also, Phil, that aren't on this call. I didn't, until I came into this role, I hadn't had a chance to work with Joyce. I know who she was, but she and I serve on the board together, and the best part of the board is getting to sit next to her, because I can pick her brain on things. It's amazing. I listened to these calls and wrote down quotes from April when she was on the call. I was on a leadership panel last fall with Willow, and took things away from her. So what April said, Joyce, I think she said that we're the old people, and that's okay, because I know I'm the old. I know I'm the old person. I get it. I'm one of the old guys, but I'm learning from those people that are still the next generation, or the younger ones, or however we say it. I'm learning as much from you all, and I wish I had been the leaders that you all are at a certain stage of the game. I have learned from each one of you all, and I think that's what we all have in common. We haven't stopped learning. Y'all all being directors and executive directors, and Joyce is over 4 counties. I mean, that's a huge deal, and she's in a large hospital system. And Willow and April are both directors. The things that we're all continuing to learn from each other is just something that I haven't seen before. I haven't personally had before, and I think it's fantastic. And I'm excited about where EMS is going because of it.
Yeah, 100%. And like I love what you guys say, paving the way, because as I look back in whenever I first started this, and I see, like Joyce mentioned, the Jeffs and the Brents and the Toms, and of course we have Gerald on the call, and as I see those individuals, and I remember the things that they pounded the pavement, they pounded the desk, and these are the non-negotiables. And I remember as a young paramedic and the EMT and aspiring to do more, and like all of us, I think we could say we didn't understand what that pounding the pavement, why they were trying to drive certain things into our head that were non-negotiables. But those guys and ladies were the beginning. I mean, our industry as a whole across the United States is only roughly 50ish years old. I mean, so they were the first generation, and we can say we were maybe the second 2.5 generation. And now, as we've mentioned here, Willow and April, we've got the next generation, and you ladies are pounding the pavement, and you're instilling opportunities for the next level. And I can tell you that some of the things, well, a lot of the things, I'm going to say probably 75+% of the things that you guys are able to do today at your services, would have never been the opportunity to even discuss. you know, it just wasn't going to happen because of a lot of other reasons. It just wasn't the time yet. But so we're super excited that you guys are being able to do that. And if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. But I do want to just bring out y'all sent me a lot of good points, and as we're getting toward the wrap up of this session, and I see Gerald here. We're going to give him a chance to talk here in just one moment. As we're getting toward the end here, yeah, I want to kind of bring out some points that kind of will leave us toward our end here. Joyce made a comment as she and I were talking is if you let gender barriers hold you back, you'll regret it. You know, she thinks that there was a time when we did that, but not anymore. And that's great because she's right. I mean, there was a time I can promise you there was a time whenever we first got into it that it was an all male workforce. I mean, it was very few females, period, especially no females in leadership. So definitely glad that we're changing that. I see a lot of new ladies in high positions now. April, she had a lot of good points here, but one of the things that I wanted to bring out as we're getting toward the wrap up is, find a mentor and supporters. That is key. I could probably guarantee you that if we went back and listened to every episode of this call, and I can't remember what episode we're on now, it's like 20 something, but I can promise you that every episode that we have on this call, the word mentor has come up. That is key. There are principles of leadership, and that is one of the top 5 is mentors. So definitely want to thank April for giving us that. Find a mentor and supporters, speak people who can help you elevate. Shannon brought out something that I thought was really neat. Again, about mentors, it says you may not have a mentor, which when you're starting out, we may not have a mentor. We're still trying to navigate to find that person to become our mentor. But what she said is so true, and I can relate to this. She says, you may not have a mentor, but you will be able to learn what not to do from people.
Yep.
How many of us have had leaders or people that we've watched and we said, don't do that. Don't be that person. There is a great a mentor as anybody. And Willow, she had a good point here, as a lot of good points, but I wanted to mention Willow says anchoring decisions in faith, service, and integrity. Those are very, very good principles as a leader. So we really appreciate everybody today. I know Gerald, one of our first paramedics in the state, over 50 years of this industry, has come on camera and wanted to add some knowledge here. So Gerald, we've got just a minute or two here if you want to share with us.
Sure. There's one lady that I think deserves to be mentioned, and that's Donna Tidwell, because I trained her. Well, I didn't train her, but I had her in an ACLS course way back when she was provider, and I don't think she's ever forgiven me for giving her blood gases during that ACLS course, because at that time that you're supposed to figure out base deficit. But if you look at Donna's career, she was a provider, then became an IC. And then from there, she went up and became an instructor for Rick Collier over at Vol State. And then a few years later, became the director of the paramedic program at Columbia State. And from there, she worked her way on up into becoming the actual, the educational director at the state EMS level over the whole entire state. So I think she needs to be mentioned as a role model for all the ladies that are entering EMS. And talking about, for me anyway, historically, y'all may not believe this, but when I had some ladies in the paramedic course, I actually had to go to the fire department and we really had to work and get special permission for them to enter into the fire stations to do their clinicals. Now, nowadays, you wouldn't even think about that. But back then, it was pretty much a truly 100% male dominated field. And when you were female, you were like maybe one or two in there. And then when clinicals came around, females weren't going into the bed halls and things like that back then. They, that kind of thing. So I've got, a lot of old historical perspective about a lot of things there. But I forgot who was mentioning, or you asked about legacy. And each and every one of you, whether you won't believe it or not, or want it or not, you're creating a legacy, whatever that may be. And even when you're a field provider, you create a legacy because you create a legacy as a good field provider or a bad one, or, one that won't do anything, but you got a legacy every time you do something.
Yeah, that's 100%. Thanks for sharing that. And for those who are not familiar with Donna, Donna was our first female TEMSA president, which Shannon's our second, which we have her on the call today. And Donna was also our first and only female state EMS director to this date. And Donna definitely, I had the privilege of being part of in Donna's career as her being the state director. And definitely there was a lot of good things that she brought to the state of Tennessee that have left a legacy that Brandon currently is building on. So thanks for sharing that, Gerald. We appreciate that. Appreciate your service. So we got time for another question as we're getting toward the wrap up here. What advice, whoever wants to answer this, what advice do you give women aspiring to be a leader in EMS or just EMS leadership roles?
I can touch on that, I guess. I think for me, I think you have to lead with integrity, and I think everybody should lead with integrity, but it's a lot about perception. And I think sometimes the perception with women is that, they can try to use their gender as a way to kind of get ahead, right? So I think for women coming up into leadership positions or aspiring to those things, um, for me, it was always like just the facts. It's all about the business. Like, we're not friends, we're not buddies, I'm not dating you, none of that stuff at work. And I think that's really important to kind of delineate. And for everybody, I think it's important for men too. I just think that they can get away with it easier than we can. So, that would be something that would be advice that I would give is, you need to always be on the straight and narrow, because if you're not, somebody's going to use it against you at some point.
I think one thing too, Phil, is April kind of hit it on the head earlier when she said that your leadership is not the title. If you're inspiring to be a leader, then you need to lead all the time, even without a title. And I think really, if you do that, then it's going to come to you. People are going to recognize it. The title is just an added plus there, but people are going to follow those who take the notion to lead. And we've had some really good leaders that never had a title at all. So if you want to lead, goes back to what Willow and April said earlier. You lead by example, and you do it every day. And you don't wait for the title. If you wait for the title, you're not going to get it.
Phil, I know the music's coming on, but be kind first and leadership will follow. Be a human first instead of a leader.
I would like to add that, new leaders, the younger generation, have a huge advantage over probably all of us that may predate Google growing up, is if you can't find a mentor locally, some of us don't have access to those women or whoever in those high roles to reach out to. The principles and science behind leadership in any industry is the same, and you may find that mentor online. Immerse yourself in whatever path you want to go to. It's out there, and that's a huge advantage. So make sure you're taking advantage of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And reach out to one of us. I'm sure, as busy as we are, if somebody reached out and said, hey, I need a mentor, this is what I want to do with my life, got your back.
100%. Always. That's why we do this call, because we want to mentor others and leave our legacy and help this industry. And leadership in general is the same, as April said, and grow. Thank y'all for this. Has been a great call. It's hard to believe we've been here for an hour already. We could have gone another couple of hours, I'm certain. Join us next month, October the 3rd, 2025. It's hard to believe we're already at October of this 2025 year. Our next guest will be Chief Jerome Cole from Germantown Fire Department. Everybody on this call is probably familiar with Chief, and he and I have already kind of been talking. He's going to talk about servant leadership. He's got some really good things to share with us. I'm super excited about that. And remember, we do this call because the most important person you ever lead is yourself. Thank y'all so much. Have a blessed day.